A lonely girl moves to a dark house on the moor and finds a hidden garden that's been locked up for years. The Secret Garden. Full review, full spoilers.
Meet Mary Lennox. If you encountered her at age 10, you'd probably think she was the most disagreeable, sour-tempered kid you'd ever crossed paths with. Growing up in colonial India, she lived a life of extreme affluence, but absolute emotional neglect, leaving her physically weak and entirely isolated. That isolated world shatters overnight. A cholera epidemic sweeps through her compound, killing both her parents and scattering the servants, leaving her completely alone. Without a home, she is shipped halfway across the world to her only remaining relative, landing in the damp, freezing, and infinitely bleak moors of Yorkshire, England. Her new home is Misselthwaite Manor. It's a massive, daunting stone estate with hundreds of locked rooms, ivy-covered walls, and a looming presence that feels more like a prison than a sanctuary. She has no friends, no family who wants her, and literally no idea how to dress herself. It is the absolute rock bottom of childhood isolation, but it creates the perfect, desperate conditions for a serious psychological intervention. With absolutely nothing to do and no one to entertain her, sheer boredom forces Mary out of the house to wander the sprawling, neglected grounds of the manor. During one of these wandering sessions, she befriends a local robin. Following the bird through the overgrown brush, she unearths a buried key that unlocks a heavy wooden door. Behind it lies her deceased aunt's forgotten, walled-off secret garden. The place is entirely dead, choked by years of weeds, but Mary decides she wants to bring it back to life. She enlists the help of Dickon, a local moor boy with an almost magical ability to communicate with woodland animals and coax plants out of the dirt. For the first time in her life, Mary is doing manual labor. The daily exertion of pulling weeds, digging in the soil, breathing fresh air does something unexpected. She actually gets hungry, eats her meals, and begins to build real physical strength. As she works, her physical appearance transforms right along with her attitude. Her skin loses that sickly yellow tint, her cheeks turn rosy, and she actually learns how to smile. But inside the manor, things are still incredibly bleak. At night, Mary starts hearing a mysterious, frantic crying echoing down the dark, empty hallways. She follows the sound and discovers her hidden cousin, Colin Craven. He is entirely bedridden, treated as an invalid, and perceived as weak and effeminate by everyone around him. Colin is convinced he is developing a hunchback and is going to die young, and he throws massive, hysterical tantrums to control the household. Mary refuses to coddle him. When he throws a fit, she aggressively yells right back, completely shocking him out of his spiraling anxiety. Once she has his attention, Mary and Dickon orchestrate a covert operation. They load a terrified Colin into his wheelchair and sneak him outside the walls of the manor to see the secret garden for himself. Surrounded by fresh air and blooming flowers, Colin experiences an overwhelming surge of life. Angered by a gardener who assumes he's crippled, he forces himself up out of his wheelchair and stands firmly on his own 2 feet. He spends months secretly exercising in the garden. When his absent father finally returns to Misselthwaite, he isn't greeted by a dying child, but by a healthy, glowing boy sprinting across the lawn to meet him. Holding on to sad, anxious, and negative thoughts acts exactly like a festering disease in your system. Conversely, if you actively replace those ugly, fearful thoughts with beautiful, productive ones, it can quite literally bring you back to life. The practical takeaway here is incredibly straightforward. Nature is medicine. If you are feeling utterly miserable, sometimes the best possible cure is to get outside and get your hands dirty. For its brilliant execution of that idea, this story easily earns a rating of 5 out of 5 blooming roses. Even though it was published well over a century ago, it holds up beautifully today as the ultimate character glow-up story, perfectly suited for anyone who might just need a little attitude adjustment.
Mary is a sour, neglected child at the start, and watching her thaw alongside the garden she discovers is one of the great character arcs in the genre. The Secret Garden is one of the most quietly transformative children's novels. The prose is gorgeous, a genuine 5 out of 5 stars. Loved The Secret Garden? Try A Little Princess by Burnett next. Equally beautiful, completely different mood. And for a less obvious recommendation, Tom's Midnight Garden by Philippa Pierce, another magical, slightly melancholy book about gardens and time. Have you read this one? Did you love it or not really? Let me know in the comments. New books are always on the radar, so subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.